Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of Association All Access. Hey, I'm joined by a very special guest today. We've got my brother, Mr. David Sheppard, who is the 17U head coach and director for God's Property. Coach Shep, thanks for being with me today, brother. How you feeling?
Yeah, we appreciate it. I'm feeling good, man. We're getting ready for the Atlanta Jam this afternoon. Got a 6 o'clock game with 17U, so we're looking forward to it.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, Coach, let's go ahead and get right to it, man. Let's talk about your son, Ben. Hey, he had one of the best performances and outings that we saw at Best of the South years ago. Tell me, Coach, how did it benefit, or what was the benefit for him playing on an independent program throughout his grassroots years?
Well, one of the things is, Ben had a late growth spurt, and his freshman year, he's probably about 5'8", very skilled with the ball, but I'm a firm believer that regardless of what team you're on, you got to be on a team that you can play and contribute. And I think too many guys get enamored with, just being on a sneaker company. And I tell kids all the time, I'm like, hey, if you're not in their top 6 or 7, you need to play on a team you can play with. Because otherwise you're going to sit the bench. And I don't care what team you're on. If you're sitting on the bench, there is no exposure.
Tell me about it, man. Tell me about it. That's one of the benefits of the things with the association, man. We're glad to have programs like you all, man, that just really get those kids that opportunity to be seen who aren't on those shoe circuits and things like that. Well,
That's
Coach,
right.
Throughout the years, you've had some very high quality teams and the teams just played well offensively. It's always good watching you, Coach, and watching the God's Property Ball Club on the floor. For players that may not be familiar, or coaches that may not be familiar, what's been your philosophy on that offensive side of the ball?
On the offensive side of the ball, we really play more of a principle-based offense. It's funny, talking with college coaches, some of their feedback, they're like, a lot of teams try to run a bunch of sets and things of that nature. He said, and we can't really tell whether a kid can play or not. So we tend to do a more principle-based offense and, teach guys about double gaps, how to read screens, how to backdoor cut, whether to lift, and things of that nature, so that when we're playing, we're almost unscoutable because there is no set play. Guys have principles that they're playing off of, and I think that's what allows us to get into it quickly. Some kids struggle with that because they're not used to the type of freedom, and but those are the same kids that tend to struggle in set plays as well because if there's 3 options on a set play and they can't read the first 2, the third one doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
so
man,
that's been our offensive philosophy is a more of a principle based, and it doesn't matter whether you're playing zone or man. So when we have our practices, a lot of our drill work and our 3-on-3, I think that's the biggest key. We do a lot of 3-on-3. So because I tell guys, look, if you can't see it with 3 people, you're going to miss it with 5.
Right, Coach. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man, that's a great concept too. I mean, and having conversations with teams and players and coaches, that 3-on-3 concept is one that should be used more,
Yes.
and it encourages spacing, encourages ball movement, all those things that, like you just said, man, make that principle-based offense work. Well, Coach, you talked about your offensive, but now I want to even talk about your personal coaching philosophy overall. What allows you within your philosophy to really help these players, reach their goals and achieve their dreams while they're playing travel ball season?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is I'm real honest with the guys about playing to their strengths. I think too often players come in and they want to do an impersonation of someone else that they think is good.
Right.
And my thing is shooters ought to shoot, slashers ought to slash, and let the college coaches guess what you can't do. I said, but if you expose yourself and show them what you can't do, then, it's already, you've already showed your hand. So, my guys that shoot the ball well, I'm like, look, if you're catch and shoot, then we're going to do what we can to get you open. You understand the principles of how to get open. And so once you do that, when you catch it, I need you to shoot it if you're open. The next part of it is if you're not open to shoot, then I need you to attack and then pass. And I think there's, in the game today, guys are just too much standing around. And so, and so my guys that can get to the basket, I want you to get to the basket, but also recognize help. So, there's guys that drive to the basket and they're like, I don't care if there's 3 guys in there. It's like, no, pump your brakes.
Yes. Wow.
If you can beat your man and then help comes, I need you to kick it. I said, because one of the greatest compliments you can get from a college coach is the kid can play.
Yeah.
And, and a lot of times, missing shots or making shots are not the key. It's, did you make the right decision?
Right.
And I think that's where we're able to help kids. And it helps that, class of 2019, the team that had Ben Sheppard on that team, we had 9 players on that team. 7 are playing college basketball. The class after that, the team that I ended up taking over, this class of 2020, we have 6 players. And last year we didn't play because of COVID, so we missed out on that. And I lost a couple players this year. Right. But I'm proud of the group that we have right now. We had our first tournament at the Tip-Off Classic. And, we had some missteps the first couple of games, but then we got together against Knight Riders and played a really good game. Guys started playing to their strengths. And I'm hoping we pick up where we left off, that Sunday and have a good showing this weekend at the Atlanta Jam.
Yeah, good deal. Coach, you're a basketball guy through and through, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Listen, but you need that, and players need to understand, having what structure is like, but at the same time, learning how to play the game the right way. And having a coach like you, man, kudos to you and your philosophy. It makes their adjustment to how to be able to play if they would like to pursue a college scholarship offer or earn one. It helps them down the line. And you can clearly hear that evident with what you just said. Coach, I want to go even deeper into, the program for parents and players that may not be familiar with the inner workings of God Property. What are some things you would share with them about your program?
Well, I think the biggest thing is we want kids that are committed, kids that, have a goal of playing beyond high school. Because I believe the kind of concepts that we put in are college level concepts. And so my goal when I put a team on the floor is to have something that looks familiar. When a college coach looks at us, they want to see something that looks familiar at their level. For instance, a lot of the high, major, mid-major type schools, and I'm not just talking about Division I. I'm talking about, some of the, the high-level Division II teams that come in. You're going to see a lot of 4 out, 1 in, and so that spacing, making sure that when guys are on the ball side, we have a 2-man game and a 3-man game on the opposite side. So when coaches can see something that relates to that level, they're like, okay. This guard, he knows how to read the pick and roll. He knows what to do when a guy hedges. When the ball moves on the weak side guys are exchanging or they're setting the down screen. So, those type of things are what we instill in our players. We don't want guys that are just looking to play. We want guys that have an ambition of playing at the next level. Now, I can't guarantee that, obviously, but when you get that kind of commitment from players, they'll come to practice. For instance, last night we had practice. It's spring break. I had everyone except for 1 kid at practice last night.
Wow.
And so when kids are foregoing, going to the beach and things of that nature, and they're saying, hey, we're dedicated to playing. Right. Well, look, I'm going to give them my all on that.
Sure.
Because I'm all in. And if, I think sometimes, that example that coaches have to give to their players, set the example of what the expectation is. And so, that's the biggest thing I can tell parents is that we're looking for commitment. And we'll be committed to you. We'll make phone calls on your behalf to college coaches. We have, platforms that we use that kids can be proactive with communicating with college coaches that, we can monitor. And I think all those things together, make for a successful program. In years past, I'm just going to put it out there. We used to have some younger age groups, and the parents are just crazy in the younger age groups. So from a program standpoint, we made a commitment. It's like, we're going to start working with kids 8th grade and higher. And the biggest reason is we get a better commitment, but the threshold for work and focus and practice is a lot greater. We'll train and work with younger players, but, we're pretty much done with putting younger teams on the floor. Because, parents, the expectation of what a 5th grade can do is just way out of control. So
no, we know that, man.
And the other thing too is they get mad. They're like, Coach, why aren't we playing zone? I'm like, look, we're a man-to-man, program. We want to play man-to-man. And because I think it teaches great habits. And if you have to go to a zone, I think you'll be better in that zone once you understand man-to-man principles. So when you watch a 17U team, you'll see them play nothing but man-to-man. And I'm like, I'm not going to bail you out. We're going to guard your yard, and we're going to be in help, and we're going to communicate.
Man, there you have it. I mean, Coach, it just makes sense, man. You know, it makes sense. And I think one thing that you keyed in on was that commitment piece. Yeah. And I think that commitment piece from players, you know, it makes a difference, especially when you talk about the development of the player long term, the attention to detail that they'll have, their ability to be able to want to produce what they're doing in practice and training into a game. So that leads me to my next question. And I've got to ask you now, Coach, how has having players who were committed, how did that translate it into you being able to push them forward to the next level? And then, like you talked about with that 2019 group, you know, who are some of these players that you've seen that were committed, that bought in, you were able to develop and mentor them and put them into the next level? Who were some of those players that have done that outside of yourself?
Well, you know, you got BJ Knight out of Peachtree Ridge, that's at the Naval Academy. EJ Washington, that was at Lanier High School, who's was also at the Naval Academy. You know, we have Maurice Hector, that's down at Bruton Parker. You know, we got Cole Peruzek, who's up at Swanee. Riley Costas is at Berry. I mean, you know, we can go on and on with several of those players that bought in and play to their strengths. I mean, I won't say his name, but just a funny story. I'm like, hey man, you know, you want to shoot threes, like, you know, one other player, Trey Smith, that was out of South Carolina. You want to talk about commitment. This kid was coming basically from Spartanburg, South Carolina. He was at every practice on Tuesday and Thursday here in Duluth. We were practicing at Button Road Park. He was basically a 4-hour round trip and never missed a practice. And so, so what that translated into, he was playing in a small classification in South Carolina, even though he was scoring 2,400 points during his high school career. And now he's at Carson Newman, you know, contributing and as a starter, lights out shooter. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. He was a kid that, even though he was a prolific scorer, had no offers, playing with God's property, playing the right way, playing to his strengths, playing man-to-man defense, buying into that. And now, you know, he's playing on a full scholarship, you know. So, I mean, I can really go, you know, a lot into depth on those type of things, but those are just some of the examples of commitment. Like, you know, BJ and Ben, you know, they have been playing together since 5th grade. So that's how long. I mean, so they become more than just players. They become family. I mean, I still have a text group with that class, and I just texted them 2 days ago, and they're just putting emojis. I'm like, look, communication, guys. I said, use your big words. Let me know how things are going.
Coach, say that text savvy with the emojis.
Yeah, it's like, use your big words. I need to know how you guys are doing. Yeah, so, man. You know, that's what commitment does. And I think the other side of it too is that when they see a coach's commitment, it gives you some grace to give them a dose of honesty when they're not, you know, playing the game the way you think it ought to be played. When you go see them at their high school games. I mean, I know some coaches, you know, they do the travel season, then you don't see them
at all.
When they see me show up in the gym, they're like, hey, coach, what's up? I didn't know you were coming tonight. I'm like, well, you just never know when I'm going to step into the gym and come check you out. I just want to see that what we did over the summer is holding. Wow. And then I think the next piece is being in communication with their high school coaches to let them know that we're not working against one another. We're working with one another because we want the same thing for your players.
Oh, that's huge, man. You know, that.
And so I think all those things combined reflect commitment on both sides. And I think it makes it easier and gives us all some grace. You know, when I'm in a game and I'm getting on a kid for not shooting the ball, he knows where it's coming from.
Right.
He knows that it's coming from a love that I have, not just for them, but for the game as well.
Right. Right. Man, that's awesome, Coach. That's as real and as genuine as it gets. And man, all those players, I can only man, I know for a fact they've been extremely fortunate and grateful, man, to have you and your staff just be there, just in regards to helping them out and coaching them up the right way. Well, Coach, look, one last thing, man. I've enjoyed this.
I want to add one last thing to that commitment piece of it too, is that with the parents, if you've ever seen a post-game talk with our players, especially pre-COVID, I include the parents. Wow. And it's because they're a part of the team and we all have a role. Wow. And when you do that, you know, the kid can't misinterpret something that was said in the breakdown. The parents heard it for themselves. And they were like, no, that's not what coach said. This is what coach said. And so it allows us to have an open line of communication because, you know, they're footing the bill. Yeah. And I don't want to spend other people's money, but I also want them to feel like they got value for what they invested, because it's an investment. Yeah. Yeah. In their players and in our program. And this is what allows us to keep moving forward. Man, that's awesome. So, that's unique, man. I think that's pretty cool right there, though. But it makes for a better relationship down the line. Parents are able to hear and everybody's able to be in sync. That synergy is really key. Well, one last thing, Coach. Again, man, like I said before, man, this has been awesome. And I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with me for a few minutes. Coach, how has your experience been with HoopSeen over the years, man? And then even tell us about your experience so far with the new HoopSeen Association. Yeah, I mean, so our experience has been well run, well organized. You know, the schedule comes out; it doesn't change 6 or 7 times before I'm supposed to play. You know, I really like the new format. I think talking with Ty Young and giving some of the feedback, especially around live periods, of having a schedule that's set. Not necessarily having to play for a championship. You know, once we get to the high school level, it's not about playing for a gold ball on a box. It's about the competition. And so the competition, along with having a set schedule, you can then send it to college coaches, and then they can adjust their schedules to be able to come see your game. You know, if you're in bracket play, and you just don't know when your game is going to be based on win or losing, you can lose out on the opportunity. So I think having the schedule and being able to communicate that to college coaches, that format, playing 4 or 5 games over a weekend, knowing what that schedule is, man, that's just awesome. And that's something that we've always, looked for. You have clean facilities. And so it's just been a good experience for all of us, for our parents. The one thing I would say is get rid of that $5 parking fee.
Gotcha, Coach. Yeah, man. Totally understand.
Or at least give me a coach's pass so I don't have to pay the $5.
Wow. Gotcha, Coach.
Yeah, but overall, it's been a good experience. I mean, we've been hanging out at Swanee Sports Academy and HoopSeen when it was just Swanee before HoopSeen came on. That's how long we've been involved, in the community. We've been out here coaching now for almost 15 years at a number of different levels. And so, it's Mike Eddy and what he's done with, making sure the facility stayed, on par with anything else, and how you guys have grown and expanded. I mean, it's just a testament to your commitment to providing the best experience for our youth, not just for exposure, but playing great competition and learning how to become great young men and women, in the sport of basketball. Because at the end of the day, we're teaching basketball, but we're also teaching some valuable life skills about integrity, commitment, and learning how to overcome adversity.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I totally agree. Well, Coach, man, this has been a phenomenal interview, man. I appreciate you again, brother, for your time.
Yeah, we appreciate you too.
Hey, for all the viewers, look, this isn't about me. This interview today was with the director and 17U head coach, David Sheppard of God's Property, man. And Coach, again, man, we look forward to seeing you and your crew at all our events this season, man. And we're going to have a fantastic year. And I look forward personally, Coach, to get more interaction with you as the season goes on. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in again to another episode of Association All Access. One more time, I was joined by special guest, 17U head coach and director of God's Property, my man, Mr. David Sheppard.